Okay, dear colleagues, dear friends, dear partners, let's continue. It's always a bit difficult after lunch because the blood goes to other areas of body. But since the debates are so interesting, I'm quite sure we can have a very good 50 minutes of conversation. Here we have colleagues from the automotive industry, and we will be discussing how the other side, if I may use this not very nice expression, sees the research and development in cooperation with the academic community. In the previous roundtable, we heard surprisingly quite a few critical remarks from academic community about academic community. This is not usually the case. I wouldn't care if again we see critical remarks about the academic community because we're trying to learn on the basis of this experience to be better partners and also to implement this InnoHPC project in the best possible way. So let me start. Let's start with Mr. Mihelic, who has a long experience in the automotive sector. Let's start with the general introduction. How is your view about the effectiveness and usefulness, let's say, in development of new products, problem solving and so on with academia, with higher education institutions, with research institutes? And here, at least, let's say, in the Southeast European context, in the Danube region context, in this case, we're mainly referring to public institutions or institutions financed from the public money, like we are, for example.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Maybe I will not sound typical because my experience in cooperating with academia is quite good. I come from automotive industry, from automotive suppliers. That means companies that develop and produce parts of cars, because nowadays we know that OEMs, that means original equipment manufacturers or car manufacturers, they don't develop and make their own cars. They just assemble them, they market them, but the development and production of parts is done by their development suppliers. So my experience is in companies which are development suppliers. Development and research in automotive industry is quite intensive. It's also, let's say, a big challenge because automotive industry, together maybe with aerospace industry, is always the leader in methods used in development and also in business, and also in methods used for team management and for project management. So how we found a way to work together with academia. We started with very small steps. That means that we didn't right away start with projects for which maybe Europe or Slovenia would give money. That means subventions or things like that. Because usually when you start like this, your only common interest is to get some money out of, let's say, the state. And that's probably not the right way to start with. So we started with very, very, let's say, elementary challenges. In product development, we did the design of products, we did the virtual analysis, we did the prototyping and testing of products. And in virtual analysis, that means finite element method analysis, we started to cooperate with faculty of mechanical engineering. Making this FEM simulations or computing from academical point of view, it's not something, let's say, very high-end, but it's something that it's not even so trivial. And it and let's say assistants, professor assistants could work on that, even some students could work on that. And we got results which were right away useful. I mean, we from industry, and we could sell those results right away. And in doing that, and we were able to pay for that also to academia right away, because it was something useful. And of course, when we were doing that, we harmonized our two quite different worlds of industry and academia. Because when we started, we found out that one side thinks in terms of hours and days, and the other side thinks in terms of months and years. You guess which side is which, but and one side maybe stops working, I don't know, at the end of the working day, and the other side when the product or the service is done, so, and it could be sold, and so on, of course. And this difference, it's important to know them and to acknowledge them, and then to deal with them, because and in work that you do, you could do that, you know. Day by day, you learn about the culture in the other sphere, and you get familiar with it, and you make a little bit of of adjustment, and the other side makes a little bit of adjustments, and with time you see that you're not so different, and you understand better each other. And when you understand better each other and you build trust, then you are ready for more complex projects. Even for projects which on one side are maybe not that interesting for short-term industry purposes, and on the other side that are more interesting for academia, because the challenge in academical point of view it's higher. So start with let's say basic things and build trust, get to know the cultures, harmonize the IT protocols and everything, you know. This has to be harmonized, this because otherwise you have so many challenges that you just cannot overcome during the work, when you just try to perform and finish the project in time, if you don't do that before. Okay, so I hope that the question was answered.
Your experience is let's say more in terms of very long-term cooperation as opposed to short-term solutions of problems. I mean, I don't know, let's say, does it often happen that you have a problem and you would ask 3 or 4 different institutions whether they would want to deal with it or so on, or do you prefer to have this sort of permanent partnership?
Yeah, me personally, I am very much for the long-term relationships. That's also my personal motto, and I run marathons and so on. But it's not just personal view. That's it shows up that actually these relationships works better, and they can also then outperform the short-term relationships when it comes to short-term projects. I didn't say that we were not doing the short-term projects later on, when the long-term relationship was built and trust was established, and then we were ready to make the very short-term projects too. So, but I think that if you do that without previous get to know each other better, then it's very low possibility that it will work.
When I was listening, it was interesting. It struck me that before we were listening to some of the colleagues from academia, and some of them clearly explained another type of story. They actually, maybe I misinterpret them, or maybe I over-exaggerate, but they didn't. They were not very fond of this type of approach. They were more in favor of course, of having this long-term cooperation, but more in terms of, let's say, joint search for funding, external funding, and so on. So this is actually quite a different paradigm, you know. But I know that, I mean, the traditional view is business sells stuff, they have cash, they need problem solved, they pay for that. And for me, it was actually a shock. I was able to see it in, I don't know, in electronic industry with some companies that I know, and they say, we finance all our research and development from public money. And it's a private company. And they just don't invest their own money in research and development.
Yeah, that's okay. If it works for them, that's okay. I wanted to share with you an example for which I can say that it was proved, not just in one case, but many times, and it worked. I also have, of course, other experiences where things didn't work as well, and it was usually when it was like this, when we were pursuing the results without patience. And yeah, maybe I can tell you kind of a joke, but I remember it's not new. It was always an issue, probably, this cooperation between industry and academia. And we used to joke, you know, because academia used to say industry in Slovenia is just not that highly developed that we could cooperate, because their challenges are just not at the level what we are doing, what our researches are on. And then I used to joke, okay, so our problems are not difficult enough for you to be able to solve them. I mean, I think you can always solve something which is not, let's say, the state of the art at the moment. Okay, maybe you step a little bit lower under your level and you do it. Usually when you work with a kid, you usually go a step lower. Vice versa, it's a little bit more difficult. It doesn't work. But then we found out actually that our challenges were not too easy, but actually they were too difficult. That's what we found out, because okay, automotive industry in Slovenia works with all the OEMs from the world, from, I can name them, but Audi, BMW, and we can go to the end of the alphabet. And yeah, they have some global issues that we are trying to solve with them, and some of them are really state of the art. I mean, and so, and yeah, just maybe to tell you, I was also already on the other side, let's say in academia, as a teacher or professor on the faculty. So I understand maybe both sides a little bit better, but I think that always building the trust first, building the relationship, harmonizing the IT protocols, everything which is needed to exchange the data and so harmonizing the culture of both environments helps then in getting the work done. That would be the message.
Thank you very much. And I agree with you. I mean, the worst projects are always the project that you only do for money. I had some horrible projects where we earned a lot of money, but you just want to forget them after you finish.
Sorry, if I may, maybe I was not clear. In business world, of course, we do things for money. That's one of the, let's say, main reasons we exist. Of course, after the, let's say, mission, when you try to solve some challenges for the humanity, but at the end you have to solve the solution if you want to survive. But you do things which are your core business. And then if you stick with your priorities and with your core business, then usually you don't have a lot of time for, let's say, other things. That means if you want to stay focused, you need to do only your core business. And usually, the projects which comes out from, let's say, the state or the European Union or so on, usually they diverge a little bit from your core business. So you have to somehow go into the projects. Why? Because you can get money in that field, even though it's not your priority field. So you make a little turnover or something. Okay, and this is what is not what in long run, long term doesn't make sense. If let's say those projects would be on your primary field, on your core business, and you would just by doing your work also qualify to get, let's say, some subventions and let's say finance the academic partner in that project, then of course that makes sense.
Ms. Vilus, you're working for a company that works with the businesses, and if I understand correctly, you are developing things. So in a way, how to say, do you perceive yourself as a very successful competition to academia in this regard?
Well, not really. Not really. I mean, we are not some private institute. We are basically a solution provider, and we provide also engineering services to our partners, because we like to establish a partnership with our customers. So we can learn a lot from academia, but I think we are one of SMEs which has a strong idea of being at top. What is the top in our country or in our region? Therefore, we invest a lot in our staff. So we are one maybe of the rare SMEs, because somebody told before that SMEs can't afford to employ PhD, but we did it, and we are very proud of supporting our partners in the best possible way. So I think our universities are producing, if I can say so, producing a very knowledgeable people, and we also worked a lot with universities. But when you want to be the owner of the know-how you sell, then it's, I mean, the level of the partnership then is a little bit different. So you have to have the people who can do the job by themselves. Was that the answer?
You give the answers.
Well, to your question, I mean,
a lot with academia. I mean, it's something that you would do very regularly, because you mentioned hiring people, but let's say cooperating with the institute and so on, because you are a knowledge-based organization.
Yes, not at the extent we could, but we are working on that. We also work with the universities on different EU projects. which is our way of the cooperation. Maybe just, I would like maybe just to go a little bit back, because I worked for the Tier 1 for 13 years in the operational business. So maybe we cooperated with the universities very much. So I wanted to stress, because maybe Primož didn't really emphasize it. It's the security issue. I mean, that's what I faced on the operational level in R&D, is the security, because I don't think that the universities are aware how security of data, I mean data security, is very important in the automotive industry, and I suppose also the other industries. So coming or having this history behind me, we established a really high level of security protocols when we collaborate with our partners. Maybe it's very important message for all the universities who are listening to that. They should work more on the security issues, especially in the automotive industry.
It is a different line of business, but I had great fun listening to anecdote of a Slovenian scholar who was analyzing Facebook data. And you would usually assume, okay, he got the data from Facebook and he was analyzing, or he got distant access. No, he had to go to Facebook to analyze data on their computer. Basically, he had to go to their office to do it there, because they couldn't be sure, and it's a big business. You can't allow even a fraction of opportunity for something to go wrong, for some to breach and so on. But to be honest, we are really very often not aware of this sort of concerns, to put it this way, when we're talking about business. So maybe this is an idea for another spin-off project. That actually, for the next second Danube region call, actually this specific objective 1.1, from which InnoHPC is funded, actually they limited a lot possible topics. They only allowed 3 topics, and one of the topics is management of intellectual property. So we could say that they are recognizing first that they gave too many projects on 1.1, but secondly that this really is a hot and very important topic that has to be dealt with. So I imagine it was some sort of a reflection on the situation, because we heard about this today a few times already throughout most of the presentation. Thank you. Dr. Savšek, you also have a relatively rich experience of cooperating with institutions in different fields, even in different countries, and also of different levels. We got to know each other back in 2006, when University and Research Center was being established, and Dr. Tomaž Savšek approached me. We didn't know each other then. He said, "Oh, I'm from the automotive industry, and I'm interested in what you're planning to do here." And that was before FISH existed. That was before the Faculty of Industrial Engineering existed, Faculty of Organization Studies existed, and so on. So what motivated you, let's say, to approach me this day? But I'm talking, of course, generally about then your motivation, because you really work a lot for a person from the industry with the academia.
Thank you, Boro, to remember me that I'm already 10 years older. It's about 10 years that I'm in automotive industry, and I would like to stress out that before that, I was at the beginning of my career, I was as a young researcher at the university. So I got a lot of knowledge from that point of view, from the academia point of view. And after that, I worked for many years in the government. So I also learned a lot about that, how the government institutions works, and especially it was a interesting period because at that time Slovenia approach to the NATO and to the EU, so we work a lot of also with that EU bureaucracy. So when I came to the industry, I would say that I'm some kind of hybrid. So I have knowledge from the academia, from the government, and from the industry. And so it was for me at that time when I approached to you very natural or very very common to me to cooperate, that academia cooperate with the industry. So that's why I support, and we supported later on the idea of establish new faculties and to establish some or start some research and development also in this area, because I think that it is important that academia, government, and industry work together as like some kind of triple helix, and that is the way how we can develop not only the companies or the research institutions, but the community as such. And this cooperation is the only way that we can work together also in the future. And it was mentioned the trustness in between those three institutions, so that not only academia and industry, but also the government, there should be trustness in between those three parties. And maybe it could be helpful if we have people who change the position in these three areas. So somebody who used to work in the academia move to the industry, or maybe somebody from industry move to the government, and so on. So after that, it's much easier to understand each other, and when you understand each other, you can also trust to each other. You can understand what the other side think about, or how they look at this certain problem or issue or challenge, and after that the cooperation is much easier. Maybe that's why I was quite successful also in this position in industry, in this company, because it was very easy to me to go to the university, to go to talk to different agencies and understand what they would like to tell us and what is the message. And I also try to send our message to them, and it was maybe a little bit easier. Some kind of translator in between those three areas.
You apply many projects because your original background is from academia and you're relatively successful in this. How do you manage to keep the focus? Because what Mr. Mihelic mentioned, we all know that whenever you have an idea and then you want to have it funded, and then you see what they actually want to fund, then you usually have at least a bit of a problem, at least a bit. So how do you handle this sort of, let's say, discrepancies between what is expected and between what you expect?
It's very important that we have in our company, we have a team of experts, and we always discuss about the problems or what are the issues, what are the challenges. So I have some kind of knowledge what would be the subject of maybe research, future research projects. So we do not look around and maybe if there is a tender and say, oh, there is a tender, it might be interesting for us, but we look from the other side, or we start from the other side. So we have a challenge, we have a problem, and if we find a partner who can solve this, and if we find the funds to support this solution, that's the winning solution.
This brings back the memory of my communication with the mayor of Novo Mesto, Gregor Macedoni, because I mean his background is in the business. When he became the mayor, it was his first day in a public sector job. Before that, he spent his entire career, I believe, in academia. No, sorry, in the economy, in the business. In the business, and when we were talking about project applications, and he has, I think, he has dedicated a team at the municipality to apply. Coming from business, this is exactly the approach that he has. He doesn't want to apply to get the money, but he knows what project he wants to do, and then they search for sources of funding, and that is maybe the best solution. On the other hand, for science, to be quite honest, this is very often, talking about pure science, this is very often not really the option, because when it comes to national funding, at least in Slovenia, it is very competitive in non-competitive terms, if you know what I'm trying to say. And when it comes to the transnational level, if you want to get funding for pure science, as opposed to pure business, let's say that, I don't know, in physics you compete with the Nobel Prize winners, so it's really that hard. And in between you have nothing, because unlike the FP7, Horizon 2020 went quite away from the pure science. So yes, but this is actually something that also we, who are more in the science, should learn from. Okay, we are talking here about this collaboration between business and academia, about success stories and so on, but what is the life story or the process which goes sour, which is not successful? Because I can imagine, I mean, do you feel it on your skin? You see what's happening, or you just see after a while the results are bad? How do you perceive this process? How do you know that something is not going to turn out the way you hoped it would turn out? And how do you react in such a situation? Was my question clear? Cooperation, and it's turning out not to be a success. The project is not working, the results are not good, or you see that the deadlines will not be met, and things like that. Do you have experience like this? I'm talking about cooperation with academia, of course.
To be honest, no. I mean, never happened that we would not finish the project which we would start it on time or on scope or on quality. But yeah, we did some preliminary talks, and when we were trying to establish I don't know, a relationship or start a project, but then we simply didn't do it because it didn't felt right.
What didn't feel right? Because I imagine in business you don't rely on feelings only.
Well, what are feelings? You know, this is a philosophical question. Usually, also the so popular gut feeling, let's say, which is common with successful businessmen. It's of course just a lot of experiences, maybe a lot of analytical work behind, which sums up in gut feeling. But of course, it's not just gut feeling. It's not just feeling. But when you see that there is, you know, if you have two fields and there is not much in common field, then you see that this will not work. So if you present each other in terms of scope, let's say, okay, we are doing this and we would like to get there, and then the other one say, okay, we are doing this and we would like to get there, and you see that this is not converging, or that there is not much in common, this is one thing. This is very, very clear. And that you see that you would have to find something in common just for the sake of it, just because this project would need that common field, but you actually don't have it. And the other one is when, let's say, all other things, maybe you find the common field, but all other fields or other subjects just don't work. And I can give you an example. Maybe very, very specific things like organization, the way how these organizations are organized, or IT solutions that you are using, or let's say attitude toward, let's say, the confidentiality issues, as Davorka mentioned before. Things like that. And now, I didn't stress it before, as Davorka noticed, but when I said harmonization, you know, if you want to make a project together in automotive industry, you have to harmonize the IT protocols. You have to make the NDA agreements, that means non-disclosure agreements or confidentiality agreements. You have to maybe, if the projects are more R&D oriented, you have to define exactly everything about the intellectual property. And so there is a lot of work which will not serve or will not add value directly to the project, and this work has to be done. And if you just do it for one project, maybe sometimes you don't even have time, or even if you have it, it doesn't make sense. That is why I mentioned it makes sense to have a long-term partners. And then they may be on standby for a long time, but when the right project comes by, then you know that you can do it and you can realize it with that partner. So, and yeah, maybe because of this approach, we didn't actually go in the projects which would fail. And in my quarter of century in automotive industry, I really didn't have experience with a project which we would start and not finish successfully, either for OEM or either with a partner from academia.
It's very nice to hear such stories of perpetual success.
Just maybe to say something, to add something, I've been told and I learned that because of that, I'm not the right material for entrepreneur, because according to Americans, you have to fail so many times then to learn from these failures and then to finally be defined as a successful entrepreneur or startup material. Even though for the last 3 years I'm, let's say, a one-man band in consulting, quite doing well.
So if I may say, then I am the material for entrepreneur, because we had a few very close calls in EU projects, which were poorly managed, not on our side. Please.
Maybe. I just want to say something. In the last few years, we can redefine the definition of success when we are talking about the collaboration with academia. I mean, 10 or 15 years ago, the industry was very happy for any result which came from the collaboration with academia, because industry didn't have that kind of knowledge. Now, when we are aware that if you do some simulation, I mean, it should fit in 10%. And in the automotive industry, you can easily check it. I mean, you do the prototype, and if the results don't correspond to the real test, I mean, the project isn't successful, no matter the time issues and the project management and everything else. So, as I said, 10 years ago, the industry was happy to obtain any results. Now we are much, much more strict, and we know what to expect. But on the other hand, on the other side, also the academia noticed that, so they are getting better.
TPV is a relatively reasonably sized company, at least by Slovenian standards. So I can imagine that you can do a lot of research work in-house or in cooperation by your company with academic institutions, with companies like this and so on. But according to your experience, how common it is for, let's say, tier 1 or tier 2 suppliers, let's say, to join forces? Because as you mentioned anyway, cars are just assembled, if we may simplify. And cars are just assembled, so I imagine some sort of cooperation. I mean, there is room for this type of cooperation between companies. So I will simplify now. I will say, oh, let's join forces and do this together because it's better for both of us, or something like. Does it happen?
Yes, maybe 10 years ago, when I joined the automotive industry, maybe it was mission impossible to join the resources for the common research and development in the automotive industry. But in 2009, 2010, it happened something interesting, that the Slovenian government decided to support so-called research and development centers to join these research and development capabilities in different types of industry, in different types of companies. And at that time, CIEVA, research center CIEVA, that CIEVA stands for Synergetic Ecological Safety Vehicle, was established. And in this project, it was not only a project, it is a company, a SME company, was established, and as the partners in this company, also huge automotive industry companies from the Slovenia, from different areas. And we joined the people, put together people and some money and resources, and I would say that that is a story of success in the automotive industry, because people who maybe they know each other from the time, from the period of when they study together or something like that, but they didn't have a chance to work together. Now they come together and they work on different problems. Some people work in the area of electrification of the power of the engine, the other electrification of the vehicle, safety, and some other elements. But they exchange the knowledge about how to approach to the problem, how to solve certain problems, how to cooperate with some institutes. They exchange those contacts with institutes, and that help a lot when we do the development in these different areas. Of course, there were also the contracts about how to secure the information, but that was not such an important issue at that time. And I would say that that center is really the story of success. And today, after 7 or 8 years, this company still operate, and we are very successful also in other projects like EVA for Green, as it's called. That means that we work a lot of development and studies in the area of how to participate in the development of so-called green vehicles, green transport system. So I think that it is possible to cooperate, and it is necessary to cooperate. And as I said before, it's helpful if the country or the EU support that kind of cooperation. especially at the beginning of this cooperation, and if it is on a solid ground, this cooperation, it could operate through the years, and it can run years and years later on.
And what is, you were mentioning the case of Slovenia, obviously. I would say most clusters or such networks are regionally or nationally based. How is the situation with respect to its transnational dimension? I'm asking specifically because in our project, actually one of the goals of this program is to help integrating the Danube region.
Yes, that's an interesting question. You know that now for the Horizon 2020, every single country, Europe country, should prepare the smart specialization strategy. And Slovenia, of course, also prepared that smart specialization strategy. And we were lucky, and it is obvious that Slovenia realized that the mobility is one of our important sector, automotive as well as the automotive industry. And about 2 months ago, there was a meeting in Zagreb organized by the EU Commission, where they tried to put together the different countries, especially in this middle Europe, which is somehow connected also with the Danube region, to find the areas that might be interesting for those countries from their specialization. And I can say that it was very interesting because we realized that the automotive industry, and not only the automotive industry, but the road transport is one of the one of the area that could be interesting for this Central Europe region. And it fits very close together to this Danube region, and it close very together also with the project InnoHPC as well.
I would like to open the floor for discussion. We have just a few minutes left, so are there any questions? Please don't be shy. No question asked. Then I will ask a different kind of question. Do you think that in the framework of this debate, is there something, let's say, important you would like to add as a, let's say, finishing statement? Maybe something I forgot to ask, mention, or something you would specifically like to emphasize, just a sentence or two.
Okay, thank you for this question. And here I would like to, for the first time, say, at least here, ladies first.
Thank you. Okay, as the main topic of today's discussion before the roundtable was HPC, I would like to say that I'm looking forward to the results of this project, and if you need any collaboration, we are here to do something, because in the last 4 years in this job, I can see a lot of SMEs struggling with hardware and software, well, not problems, but challenges when they want to do simulation. I mean, it's very expensive from the money point of view. Then you have to have a very good personnel. I mean, not only well educated, but also very powerful personnel. So I'm looking forward to see if you will be able to do it.
Very good consortium, so I'm quite sure.
Let's see.
Thank you so much.
Okay, maybe two things. I will try to be short. one maybe message or a summary of what we heard today is that behind all these, let's say, successful cooperations, we found out there were always personal stories behind that. Yeah? So just people with names, Borut, Tomasz. Yeah? If you wouldn't be there 10 years ago or 11 years ago, the cooperation just wouldn't start. So, yeah, I think it's very important that we know that no organizations or no systems or no rules will make us cooperate, but always just people within this organization. And the second thing for, let's say, successful approach, when you are thinking from academia point of view how to approach a partner in industry, I think here the approach is important. It's important that instead of thinking, okay, now here this, here are the means, or here are the finances available, let's see what we can do together. Instead of that, think about that who in the region or in the field where you are making your researches and which is your field, who might be the partner who would actually need this kind of know-how and services, and approach that partner, potential partner, even if there are no, let's say, projects from you at that time available. And if you will, let's say, research the market or study the potential partners and approach them with already some information about them and say, okay, we are this and this, and we found out that you do this and this, you might want to use our help because we can do exactly this. We think that in your business you could use that, and I'm sure that this approach just cannot fail, because if you come with something that a partner could use, then it's a win-win. Yeah. So.
So the question at the beginning of this roundtable is what is the industrial point of view on the cooperation with the academia? Slovenia is rather young country, still young, 25 years old, and at the beginning of the when the story of this country starts, a lot of companies, a lot of industry collapsed. The other part of the industry which did not collapse, they of course reduced the costs at that time, and one of the first things that they reduced was to finish all the research and development in the country, companies in the industry, and they think that they can outsource the research and development. You can outsource some functions in a company, but you cannot outsource the knowledge, the experiences, and the basic knowledge about the problem or about the core business of the company. And of course, as it was mentioned by Primož, they were, and it was discussed also in the previous roundtable, that there is no, in the past there were no cooperation enough in between academia and industry. And the reason from the industrial point of view is also that there were no people educated and with experiences and researchers. There were no researchers in some period, about 10 or 15 years. But now, as I can see, in the last 10, 15 years, in companies, in development-oriented companies, they establish development and research institutes, departments, and facilities So today there is no excuse anymore that there is no people in the companies. So in the companies where there is a willing and where are people in the right place, the right people at the right place, then they can establish this cooperation with the academia, and they can run the success stories. And I think that those companies which are really willing to cooperate, they have more than enough possibilities to cooperate today and in the future as well.
Thank you very much. This was a very good conclusion and a further contribution to the idea that we had during previous roundtable, that we really need to train and educate HPC engineers so we can sell our HPC capacities. Thank you very much for your participation, for your interesting thoughts, comments, for sharing your experience with us, and thank you everyone for being so attentive. I suggest we were supposed to start immediately with the next one, but let's take just 5 minutes break so that we can change and rest. Okay? Thank you. Okay, dear colleagues, let's start with the final event of the kickoff event, the roundtable with representatives from the electric/electronic industry. Mr. Bohar already gave us a presentation about the Slovenian electronic sector, but I would imagine that it is important sector in many of the Danube region countries. And we also have another colleague, Mr. Ribic, who is working in the industry, and he's able to provide us with the first-hand experience, perspective, and so on. And I would like to start with the typical question, the same question that we started earlier, discussions. Could you please describe, let's say, your professional background for a very simple reason, so that we can understand where your observations are coming from, so that we can put them in the proper context, and your experience in terms of cooperation with the academia, any kind of experience.
Thank you. So my name is Aleš Ribic, coming from company HSI. HSI is on the market for 10 years now, and it's the short name of Hardware Software Innovations. In the past, we have dealt a lot with development of hardware and PCB board development, mainly for the security market, which is still our main focus at the moment, but lately we are developing more on software and cloud solutions. In the background, from my background, I started with electronics early in primary school, and I'm still involved hardly in as developer, but the situation on the market because of the East countries is bringing us very expensive in development. So we moved from hardware more to software development because of the price. So the hardware development was too expensive on our market. So maybe if our market would be something different, then we could succeed. But in security market, the prices are so low that we couldn't survive in the long term if we move on with only with hardware development. So we start to represent some foreign manufacturers for the security devices, which was mostly IP video systems, and mainly focus was on multi-megapixel cameras, which was 8 years ago something very new on the market, and we see it a good solution in the long term and a big breakthrough in security market. So we have two main departments in our company. So one is still dealing with the development of software and integrations, and the other is representing manufacturers of security solutions. So in this kind of cooperation, we see that we are missing some high technology companies or maybe academic labs where we can share our knowledge based on the sales and feedback from the market. But because such lab or some academic structure is not, as far as we see, is not represented in Slovenia, we can just help manufacturers and let's say give them the feedback what should they done or what should they focus on. If I think if we could have such a laboratory or some academic group of students or let's say people which could work on similar solutions, we could have a big advantage against the foreign manufacturers, So we can also sell such solutions easier on the market and wider on the European market, I think.
So do you see the problem that we don't have such laboratories in Slovenia in existence, or is there like a problem of cooperation? I mean, lack of motivation for cooperation, too high prices. What is, let's say, the limiting factor according to your experience?
Okay, according to my experience, we don't know if such laboratory exists. So maybe it's a problem of the marketing, which was not made in the right way, or even if maybe it's not made at all, from such laboratories to came to our ears. So if we didn't heard that something like this exists, or we didn't heard that we have the possibility to establish some kind of group where we can cooperate with them and let's say give them some experience or some way where to go or what to develop or in which way to cooperate.
If I may comment, I'm always in search for funding. It comes like a reflex to me. And right now, actually, maybe I could be a consultant in this area as well. Right now, there is but I'm sure you have seen it, there is a spirit call, which is something that you might find very interesting, because it actually allows you to do these sort of things. You're located in Novo mesto, so it's Eastern Cohesion region, meaning most of the money coming here, really, not to the west, but to the east. And also it actually allows you to establish some sort of cooperation with an excellent academic institution like Faculty of Information Studies. Sorry? He just mentioned there is no advertisement, so I'm trying to advertise our skills and competencies to the representative of the business community. But seriously, I liked what I heard before when in the automotive industry, what Mr. Michelic said. They started with small steps. And maybe something like this could be an interesting small step on the basis of which to start building trust, which was mentioned a zillion times today already, to start building competencies on both sides, and so on, because this is one of the ideas in the framework of the InnoHPC project. So we don't have this sort of, how to say, approach. We are from the academia and we are going to teach you, we'll bring the knowledge to you. We're very well aware that we need to learn. There is a need for two-way flow of knowledge. And just an anecdote, I was just going through a review of last year's proposal, which I submitted to another call, which is evaluated purely by people from academia. And I had this attitude, because I believe in this attitude, like we will teach each other. And because of this very positive attitude, my project was downgraded, saying, come on, you're academia. You have to go and teach them. You have to assume the role of the pillar of knowledge. This was not the exact word. I'm being a bit dramatic here, but I was really shocked because this sort of approach, I know it's still present, but we started talking even in Slovenia, and we're always lagging behind in these sort of things, but we started talking about two-way flow of knowledge 10 or 15 years ago already. So it really is a very, very, very old story. And our project was downgraded because I believed that we should cooperate like this. But in InnoHPC, you can see that we had different type of evaluators. So this sort of approach was appreciated. So I hope this was the first step in direction of marketing. And Dr. Blaž Rodić is not here, with your colleague. He's an excellent expert. Okay. Could you please, Mr. Bohar, share of your observation in terms of this cooperation. You have a bit different position to say, because you don't work for a company, not anymore. You have a rich experience from this sector, but you work for a chamber, for a business interest organization. So you actually are in a very interesting and privileged position. You're actually allowed or paid to have strategic approach for benefit of this sector. Could you comment a bit about this? About your vision?
Yeah, and my vision comes from experience, previous experience when I worked for companies. There were two ways to, or two general points of view when you cooperate with academia. One is if you try to solve a problem on your current product or within your current value chain. And in this case, the academia is at the top of the value chain as the one that can provide a solution for a specific problem. And then you ask for a service, and you get a service that solves this specific problem. And the other is when you try to integrate academia into the value chain for the long term, because the problem with the first approach is that you don't get the maintenance of that know-how that you received from academia. You don't get the upgrades. You don't get the adoptions or small changes. You need to absorb that know-how from academia into the company to be able to do that on your own. And this presents difficulty when companies are in a position to decide whether they want to adopt this knowledge or they want to partner with someone that can provide them their knowledge in the long term. And in Slovenia case, the academia in most cases is not able to provide the long-term cooperation on a specific problem. So you then have to go to either the competence centers abroad or the specific technological institutes that provide those type of services. So from business perspective, or even from MBA perspective, not from business perspective, it's because the academia is not positioning themselves on the market very clearly. They position themselves as the solution, they provide a solution, but they don't provide a complete solution, because the complete solution requires from them to stay on the market for a longer period of time. But after 1 year, when the problem is solved, this is not anymore interested for the doctors working on that problem. They want to approach to a new problem, solve new stuff. They don't want to deal with those little things. How do you adopt this to Russian market? How do you adopt that to American market? This is not something they want to do. And they don't usually like to do the industrialization of specific product, which is another problem at the end. And so what is academia actually offering is one question. And how to put that into the value chain of a company is another question. And the best approach for me would be, and all this smart specialization talk which is going on in Europe and in Slovenia right now, is to integrate the academia from the start as a risk-sharing member of the value chain. They can be at the beginning of a value chain, they can provide new input, but they must also share the risk, and they must also share the investment into this new product. And they will not invest with money, but they would invest with people and time. And for me to establish the business environment which supports that, so with clusters, with competence centers, with technological centers, is the way which is working all over the world, so why not here?
But at one point, I was co-mentoring a group of students from our faculty, working on a small startup idea basically we wanted to win a competition, Imagine Cup. So we went there and we won the national level, and that was the end of it. But we were dealing a lot with these support institutions and so on, and I think at some point I read a comment that in Slovenia we have more support startup support institutions than we have startups, which is maybe not quite so, but if you think about serious startups where people dedicate a few years of their lives to something like that, then maybe we are not so far. On the other hand, I could see that a number of these institutions, support institutions, technology parks and so on, have actually quite privileged access also to projects like this. Because academic institutions like us, we have to try hard to get this sort of money. Some institutions are sought after because of their unique status, because you can't just say, oh, I want to establish technology park, and then two weeks later, like you have limited company, you have a technology park. It doesn't work like that. So maybe this could be one of the problems, really, in terms of this.
Since I dedicated 3 years of my life to a startup, I'm pretty much aware of what you're talking about. But there is another issue here in Slovenia. We don't have the right startup yet. We are not the beginning of the startup development because we don't have manufacturing startups yet. We have a lot of stars. We have a lot of software startup. We have a couple of bio startup, but none of our startups. No, not yet. You should think about. I don't think that Chipolo is acquiring any new market. They are now they are positioned themselves in companies. They are selling a lot of similar products, so they are not marketing their own products. So it's not. It's a technological, more technological gadget, but it's not a product in a real sense that could actually create a new market. And in terms of money, none of Slovenian startups, except one, which failed a couple of years ago, exceeded $50 million investment money. So a successful startup in America exceeds $250 million before they start the IPO. So we are not in a range of a startup in America or even a startup in Israel, which are the largest startup country in the world. But we are gradually building it, and it's a great place to learn business. And this is the best input that we get from startup. We are basically we're basically putting into the minds of young people that they should start their own business right out of the faculty, and this is good. And this will develop eventually. But when I'm talking about support system that was so far developed here in Slovenia, this was not a support system for companies. This was a support system for academia, primarily designed by academia. And this was a support system which allowed Slovenia to basically gather a lot of money from Europe for this case. But this was not a company money. Support system that in which company invests, this is the support system that will last at the end. And the smart specialization is the first step in this direction. It's not a new idea. It's idea adopted by a couple of the richest regions in Europe, which are producing smart specialization now in the 5th or 4th term. For example, Wallonia in Belgium. They have a Marshall Plan, smart specialization strategy, and they have a version 4 right now in place. And it was every time a 5-year program. And they were, as far as a region 20 years ago, in a place where Slovenia is now. So no major companies within the major value global chains, export similar to Slovenia, and now they have developed from business point of view, they have developed a business support agency, which has 250 people around the world selling Belgian products all the time. from that specific area. So we don't have a system here in place that would encourage to develop sales departments, because this is what at the end that sells the product. And smart specialization is the first step in this direction. And hopefully we'll get that very soon.
A question for Mr. Ribic. You work in a relatively small company, which is doing a lot of development. I was once talking with a very important CEO from Novo Mesto, so I will not say his name because everybody knows him. And he said, in our company, we don't use word research. We only talk about development, because the minute we say research, we have 20 deans coming asking for money. So, but for a small company like yours, let's say, what would it take for you? In what sort of circumstance would you say, okay, I have a problem. Am I interested in paying someone from academia to solve this problem for me? Have you ever been thinking about it? Or in what sort of circumstance would you be thinking about this sort of, let's say, approach? And here I'm not talking about public money, like the one I just mentioned earlier, but I'm talking about the money that you have to earn on the market.
Okay, everything what we developed since the beginning until now, it was solving the problem on the market, which we solve it on the paper before we start the development. So the research was done in the house, and it's not something, I don't know, let's say it's not a nuclear physics, but it's solving the problem how to make a product which will be suitable for the market. We get the feedback that needs it. So it's not that technological problem, but it's more how to pack everything, and the sales, the price, who are the buyers, and what should the product do, or what functions should it have, and on what platform should it work, or such things. So that's more on the development side, or on the research side. So it's not something we should ask some academic people to help on this. But in the future, if we would be in the position that we would find a product which is interesting for the market, but we don't have enough resources, we would for sure ask some academics. But of course, when this time would came, then at that time we will basically choose with which, let's say, institution we should work for that particular solution. So if this is maybe some institute or the faculty or something, so it depends.
Do you think maybe that, I don't know, the Internet of Things could be something that would change, let's say, the paradigm in the framework of which you would have to operate? Because you mentioned you're developing, how do you call it, products which are relevant from the perspective of security. So you put it in many buildings, if I understand correctly. So if your business would be successful, at some point, successful meaning selling really a lot of them, then at some point you would actually have a lot of data which could be used for, I don't know, very advanced analytics, something that Jana Suklan, for example, can do. She's developing statistical methods which could then actually be used to discover new ways of using your own product and so on. And in this case, maybe we could actually come to the applications of high performance computing once you have to collect and let's say analyze in real time big amount of data really. This is maybe what Tom Ilyash was talking about during his presentation, when actually it will come down to small and medium-sized enterprises to use high performance computing. That's when it will become business. I'm just guessing. I can always have this excuse to say I'm a sociologist, so I don't know about technology, but this allows me to imagine things. You contributed a lot during a debate that we had on the phone, but it was a long debate, to development of the project proposal. How do you see these trends that I was just talking about in terms of cooperation, applications of high performance computing, and so on? Because I mean, we actually applied a few projects, and actually one of these projects, we called it Industry 5.0. We called it Industry 4.0 with a human touch. And this is basically the direction in which we went, you know.
This is the debate that I'm having for the last 2 years now, when the reindustrialization talk started, and digitalization is just another term of a process which is going on for 2 decades now. From business perspective, it's very simple. The availability of these digital technologies and Internet of Things, big data, high performance computing, 3D printing, and some others are the pillars of this digitalization trend. So the availability of this technology is now so huge that you can basically calculate from the economics point of view that it's almost certain that your competitor is going to use this technology and they will beat you on the market because of that. In some specific cases, one competitor can also destroy all the existing market there is. It's not in every industry, but there are some industries where some disruptive business solution came through the usage of this technology. So if you look at it from practical way, and the Germans did that from Industry 4.0, when you are in a business which is part of the global value chain, and you invest a lot of money to get 2 or maybe 1.5% in the productivity, that's a huge gain that you get with each investment. And now you receive an information, there's something called Industry 4.0, which requires from you to get 30% of productivity gains. Because if you don't get those 30%, you will no longer be a competitor on the market. So you are suddenly pushed into the corner because you need to transform your business to be 30% more competitive than it was a year ago. How are you going to do that? They tell you need to put as much as digital technologies into your company as possible. So you said, okay, I will put something into the existing production lines, but I need to put something into new products. And those new products will utilize Internet of Things, will utilize big data, will utilize all the possible technology because you have to come to the market very fast. And of course, they will utilize high performance computing if it is used correctly and if it is used from the start in that way. Because it's a technology that's proven. Big companies are using it not because it's expensive, but because it delivers results. But you have to be ambitious enough to develop products that will utilize this technology. So you cannot use high performance computing for small microcontrollers that control environment in a room. So you have to be ambitious, you have to think beyond the size of your company. You have to think in the terms of, I'm going to establish partnerships from the beginning, and we will tackle completely new markets together. And this is how I see the development is currently going on. So every single company is, because of this digitalization now, trying to find new products that will utilize this technology to the most effective way possible.
If I may, that's half seriously and half jokingly. Is digitalization and use of HPC and so on really a competitive advantage? This 30%. I'm thinking in terms. I don't know if in athletics, illegal steroids would become legal, then everybody would be using them. So do you think their companies are doing that to gain competitive advantage, or just to stay in business because everybody is going to use this?
Yeah, welcome to the business. Industry 4.0 is a marketing expression for German industry. German industry is currently a leader in a technology for production. And by branding all the new technology with Industry 4.0, they will remain the first on the world as far as this is concerned. Slovenia is one of the early adopters of this technology. We always buy PLCs, programmable logical controllers from Siemens, the latest versions, and we install Bosch production line, the latest versions. We are very strange because we basically like new stuff, even if they bring a lot of problems, a lot of initial debugging. Everything is done by a lot of Slovenian companies because we like new stuff. It's in our blood. I don't know why. I've been around the world, but it's actually everybody else is trying to wait for the product to mature, but we constantly like to run into the wall with new stuff. I don't know why. I was one of them, so I can explain it. So I'm not the right person. But we are early adopters, and it's not that we just want to stay in the game. So the job for us is to stay in the game. But the problem is we cannot stay in the game by producing components. We need to start thinking larger. We need to start thinking about designing more complex systems. And this will require more complex business partnerships at the end to cooperate on these projects. And high-performance computing is one of the pillars of these new technology trends.
Last question from my side, and here I'm talking, I will go to more international dimension. I started the presentation of the project in the morning with describing the huge differences in the Danube region, meaning encompassing both some of the richest and some of the poorest and least competitive countries in Europe. Okay, you work in Slovenia, you know a lot about Germany, Austria, and so on. But my question is, do you have information? How is the situation with respect to digitalization, awareness of digitalization, real prospects of digitalization, use of HPC, and so on, let's say in less well-off region? I can imagine, on the basis of previous experience, that some of it will get there, maybe not the top-end technology, by foreign investments, because companies have, I don't know, transnational companies have their branches there. But will this digitalization further widen the gap, or will it be able to narrow it down at least by a bit?
I don't think in the terms of regions. I think in the terms of value chains and where new value chains can emerge. And in that case, the auto industry and the electronic industry is well positioned in all those countries in Danube regions. So the companies which are in the global value chains are up to date. So they will tackle the problems the same way the Slovenian companies are tackling the problems. It's the investments or the regional policies that will support new product development that are of huge interest to me. And as far as I can see, a lot of new ideas and a lot of new proposals are coming from those areas as well. So it's not something which is only bound to Western economies. There's a lot of great proposals, a lot of great new ideas coming from Eastern countries or even Eastern European countries. And it is important for Slovenian companies to listen to those proposals as well, and then be agile enough to jump on a train with those companies, because it's a business race at the end, and they will look for a partners, but they will look for a partners that they can contribute something to them. Nobody will come to Slovenian company and beg them, please cooperate with us. If you are willing to cooperate, then you will find a partner, and a partner in Romania and Bulgaria is just as good as anybody else, because the availability of technology is universal, and the market result is also universal. So if you work by these assumptions, then we will probably see partnership with within Danube region on a new products for sure.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask the publics whether you have any questions about this topic. If I may challenge Professor Genov, you mentioned that...
Yes. Can you be more specific in which areas cooperation between innovators, say, in this area from Slovenia could cooperate with innovators in this, I mean business and academia, both ways, from Romania, Bulgaria and other countries, say to the southeast from the most developed countries, in order to make the discussions more substantive.
This is what I see as possibility. I think that the Slovenian companies currently are very well positioned in the global chains, and they have a lot of money. It's true, they have a lot of money, and they are currently looking for new product ideas. It is very difficult to get a good product idea. It's extremely difficult to get a good product idea. Just imagine, to put in a perspective, you need to put on a paper the idea which can get you a 1 billion euro revenue on a global market. So you have to put a business plan that calculates that sum at the end. And to do that, you have to put a lot of effort into it. And Slovenian companies are looking for such ideas. And maybe Slovenia is not, there's not enough critical mass here in Slovenia. And if you want to, maybe they have idea, but there's not enough critical mass. So the question would be, where do you go and look for a critical mass? If you go to the West, you must be sure that you need to put a lot of equity on a table so that the Western investor or Western partner will come on board, because they don't see Slovenia as a ideal leader and something like that, and you will lose a lot of initial business potential with it. So you need to partner with someone who is in the same position as you are. We need to partner because the West is already strong. So we need to find something that West is not doing, and we need to do it regionally. Because with smart specialization, there's a competition of regions right now going on. So the global value chains are very specific, are strict, and are positioned, and nobody will move that. So Slovenia will not be the top developer of microelectronics, nor will be the Romania, nor will be Bulgaria. So the new markets are future for Slovenia and for all the other, and we need to find collaborative ideas to access all those markets. It's no other way. So that's how the Western companies acquired the markets that they have right now. So as soon as a larger amount or a critical mass of people starts looking business idea in that level, something must come up.
I'm also really interested in this question, and this is one of the reasons why work package 3 is so important, to go on the field to companies to actually see. Of course, we'll have to debate the tools tomorrow and then by the end of the month, so then we can later start collecting the data. But I'm really hoping that the work package 3 would actually, you know, the cataloging part would allow us to get a good insight. Of course, a lot depends, like usually. This is in a way social research, really, about sampling, about the quality of the data collection tool and so on. But I'm hoping that we would get, of course, we are limited to the two sectors, to the automotive and electronic, but they are major sectors in the region. Any other questions or comments? Or maybe final thoughts? Because we came to the end of this kickoff event. I thank you all who attended. I'm not sure if there are too many representatives of the business community here. I think it's mostly partners now, but there were actually quite a few of them. And from those that attended, I could realize that they are interested in the potential of this project. Obviously, they are wary, careful, but I think what we heard today gives us the indication that we may have a good idea at our hands. And even though we simply had to do a kickoff meeting, and everybody is doing kickoff meetings now in February, in March, and so on, all 54 projects. Ours is actually one of the first. I think, I mean, it actually gave at least me and to my colleagues with whom I had spoken with, and with the partners from the business community, I think it at least gave me some sort of proof of concept. Because the evaluators can't give you proof of concepts. The evaluators just give you score. The real life gives you proof of concept. And now it is our responsibility, the InnoHPC consortium, to make the idea alive. Thank you very much for your attention, for your cooperation. Now we will have a short break. At what time do we continue with the steering committee? Is it 4 o'clock or 4:30? At what time? 4:30, okay. Sorry? We can, but not too early, because the steering committee is an official body of our consortium, and we actually make some sort of decisions which have financial consequences for us. I don't know, financial consequences, which are maybe, I don't know, am I going to pay 300 or 200 euro for the plane